Mr. Light either was not asked to be a part of the dynasty or said no to being a part of the dynasty. Good morning, Mr. Light.
I'm usually left off of most lists, but Greg, I was fired up, man. I'm sitting here on the wait line, and we got the strings were on fire. I'd never heard that song before, but I was ready to go jump in a lake or get crazy.
So what was it? Did they not ask you, or did you say no to it?
It's I can't honestly tell you. I mean, there's requests that come in, and I know you, with being a high-profile person, you're always getting attacked, and you got to weed through some of these things, right? You know the game, and
so you're like Wiggy.
I think I may have been approached.
You were approached, but you didn't choose to talk.
Well, here's the deal, right? I'm like, if it doesn't have to do with the foundation or something, I usually don't come out of the weeds. I'm probably going to try to push some agenda today for the foundation. But yeah, I think I didn't. And I got to tell you another thing. I haven't really seen any of it, but I've been told, I think, every second of it.
Well, I thought your interest was in telling us how you felt about it. That was what you and I communicated.
Well, no. You asked me about it, and I have my opinions on it. I think, I think there's a lot to unpack there. Again, I've been told every single aspect of it, and I've seen some of the short little clips and things that people post, and I think it's pretty easy to understand how these things come about, right? Number one, the timing is not by happenstance. I think, there's been a little bit of a drop in popularity, right? Maybe it has to do with winning. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I think these things come out, at interesting times. I think the information that's in them, while vague, have little nuggets that keep people on the hook. But at the end of the day, look, this is marketing. This is propaganda. What happens in that locker room, as Wiggy knows, it's very dynamic. The individuals are very dynamic, but the stories can't be told by some director in Hollywood, even if it's, got a guy like Ron Howard behind it and, many others that are supposed to be the best in the industry, right? Like, they don't know what happens in there. It's only the individual. So unless it was, Tom Brady sitting down to speak directly about, something like Deflategate, which apparently they're not going to get into, or Bill Belichick sitting down to specifically address something. The rest of this is no different than what we had last year or the year before as it relates to a lot of these topics.
Matt, the only thing that I took umbrage with is, like, all of a sudden there were players and guys that I didn't think, like a guy like Matthew Slater, who's been the ultimate Patriot, to talk about how Bill would just, completely lambaste Tom Brady. And I felt like that was something that he did to everybody, and a part of him doing it, especially to Brady in the second part of his career, the time that you were there after the 3 Super Bowls, it was really showing no one man, no matter how great he's viewed, is above the team or is above the low light Monday for making mistakes. And that was the one thing that I kind of felt a little bit like, that's what Bill did with everybody, but they made it a point to stand, kind of be like, oh, I couldn't believe how Bill
treated Tom.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring that one up because I think you're saying the same thing that I kind of felt like when it came out and people were talking about that. I'm like, yeah, well, that's what Bill does, right? There's nothing new about that. Again, it's just the director's take, right? Like you're looking at a whole bunch of people who, they're good at what they do. They're investigative. They write these storylines. They interview all these people, and they take from it, what is most foreign to them, right? Because most people aren't used to walking into a business or having a boss stand up in front of them in the in the real world, right? In the normal, sectors of society, and do the kind of things that Bill did. But we're used to that. And, a guy like Matthew Slater highlighting that is just telling the truth, right? Like, no one was above the law. No one, could get away with anything. Although, I mean, there were a few times that guys were given a little bit longer leash than I thought they should have. To be honest with you, Wiggy, I think that's one of the things that disappointed me in retirement, right? Is that I would look back and think about the things that made us successful, the things that we did really well, right? And how Bill ran the organization. And then I would look at some of the more current guys and say, I wonder if he's actually doing that to them, because it sure doesn't seem like it. You know what I mean? Like, it seems as though there's a little bit of that control that's been lost, or some of that discipline that's been, let go.
Like, give me an example of a guy that you're thinking about.
Well, number one, I mean, I think, our most recent guy, I mean, a guy like Mac Jones, right? I mean, some of the things that would happen on the sidelines, some of the, things that would come out in some of the interviews, we were very guarded with how we, talked to the media, how we addressed the media. Bill made it a point, at the beginning of every session. All right, look, here's the kind of things they're going to be coming for. This is what they're fishing for. We're not taking that bait. Let's stay on topic. Here's the things that, that are really important to winning this game. And so he controlled the messaging that went out. And then also, even just how you conducted yourself, outside of the stadium, especially even on the field, right? You just didn't see a lot of those kind of things. And so I would even go back to even a guy, and I hate to bring up his name, but even a guy like Aaron Hernandez at the end of my career. I noticed that, that guy got away with a lot of stuff, right? And I know this, could be taken a lot of ways. I'm speaking directly about on the field. Like, he didn't practice. He clearly was milking a lot of injuries. I mean, the guy didn't play, but maybe 40% of the snaps that he was eligible to play, because he nursed a lot of things. Back in the day, Bill wouldn't put up with that stuff. So, there were things that I noticed that seemed like it was a departure.
Why do you think he did put up with that when it comes specifically to Aaron Hernandez?
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of things, right? I think that, number one, Hernandez was a master manipulator. I saw him do it, with everybody in a position of power within the organization, right? When the owner would walk in, he would completely change, right? Mr. Kraft comes in, he's coming through the locker room, and Hernandez would go from a guy that was just kind of sitting there moping around, doing nothing, to all charismatic and, hey, how are you, boss? And, whatever, so I think he was really good at what he did. I also think that there's a part of coaches today that feel as though they need to meet the players where the players are, right? Meaning, the guys that walk into a locker room today aren't as hardened, aren't as tough, have very, weak skin, thin skin, right? They take things personally. They've been told how great they are ad nauseum since the day they were born. So coaches are feeling the need to cater to them. Whereas, in my opinion, just stick to what you've always done, because it's been really successful, especially our program.
Matt, did you find that people were afraid of Aaron Hernandez or intimidated by him?
It's so funny. After you find out, what actually happened there, it'd be easy to draw that conclusion, right? But the reality was much different, I mean, if anything, what I saw was a guy that was very disrespectful. We have laundry loops. We have a basket. You put your laundry on the loop, you throw it in the basket. The guy would literally just leave his laundry strewn all around his locker. It drove me nuts, man. I can't tell you how many times I confronted him with just doing the simple things, right? Don't be a jerk. Don't disrespect Murph. Don't walk into the meal room and order, a ham and cheese omelet in front of 7 other people who've been waiting in line, me being one of them. You know what I'm saying? Like he got put in his place a lot. I mean, there's definitely no one that was afraid of Aaron. I mean, he couldn't fight his way out of a paper bag, but put a gun in his hand, clearly things were different.
Well, Matt, it's interesting during it because Wes Welker, I guess, told guys, like, don't hang out with him at night. So were you told that maybe what he was doing outside the facility, off the football field, was something to stay away from? Was there an understanding there?
No, I mean, again, I didn't run those circles. I mean, you're talking, I had, 3 kids, I was home early. That wasn't my life cycle, right? I mean, other guys knew him probably different. I can't really speak to that, but look, I just think, for me, it was always a matter of respect, right? Like, don't walk into our organization and bring all your baggage and the way you do things, which is very disrespectful. It's just not the way we were. And so, unfortunately, I saw a lot more of that creeping in towards the end of my, career. And I think it's the number one thing that coaches shake their head at, right? It's why a guy like Nick Saban leaves the college football realm. He's tired of dealing with, the caliber of individual that walks in today.
So you would literally get in his face and tell him that he needs to have some respect, essentially.
Well, listen, I mean, not to, speak to things that, were a little confrontational back in the day, but I think, wouldn't you, right? Like, if somebody walks in your house with muddy shoes, you're going to get on them. Like, hey, man, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
That's not what we do here, right? Like, yeah. And by the way, it wasn't just me, right? I wasn't the only person that, had the old man mentality, uphill both ways, a little bit of a snarl, and was salty, surly guy. I mean, but I did feel like I needed to uphold that because I was an older guy at that time, right? He came in year 10 and 11 for me. And, I knew what it was like, to be in a locker room with a whole bunch of guys that all rode in the same direction and respected what we had. And when you have a young guy come in that doesn't do that immediately, it rubs you the wrong way.
Yeah, and I think Matt's right. I mean, obviously, my time, and I've seen it throughout my career, it's about guys policing the locker room, and there being guys that, regardless of who it is, and will say, hey, this behavior, we're not doing this. These people are here to help us, wash our, jocks and socks and all that, show some respect, and, don't cut the line. Like, and that becomes with guys like Matt. When I was playing, it was Willie McGinnis, guys that police that locker room, and they set that type of foundation, and they're not afraid to get in nobody's afraid of anybody. Like, there are plenty of people from bad neighborhoods, but you get in that locker room, it's about doing what's right, and guys are going to get in your face and let you know that. So,
but was it Amendola?
Yeah, hey, by the way, you know what you didn't want to hear, Greg?
Yeah.
You didn't want to hear back in the day, shower check, little homie.
Yep.
And look over and see Willie McGinnis standing next to you. I mean, that was a yeah, okay, you want to talk about being fearful for your life? Like, back in the day, we had the stalwarts, the guys that were like, the OGs, man. Like, they upheld a lot of the things that kept, things right within the locker room. And to Wiggy's point, it's not that way anymore, man. You got a whole bunch of individuals that sit next to each other and don't really know the guy that has the next number up or the next number down from them that they sit right next to for a lot of time in the locker room because they all have a brand. We know this. We've talked about this, but what you're seeing now is the reality of it, right? People acknowledge it. Yeah, that's the way it is. But now you're seeing how it can literally destroy a dynasty almost overnight.
And it's amazing, too, Matt, because it's going to get worse before it gets better with NIL deals. I mean, players are coming in now with millions of dollars already. Look at the number one pick. He said he wanted a stake of the team that drafted him, and Caleb Williams.
It's, we're on the verge of insanity, right? I mean, listen, it is going to be very difficult to right the ship now, right? The NCAA lost their lawsuit. They threw their hands up in the air. They threw a pity party and then just said, do whatever you want. And now we have to live with the fact that all of these athletes, by the time they're at junior high, are looking at a payday to go to college. I mean, look, I got to tell you, I have nothing wrong with a guy going out and earning his money. These guys aren't earning their money, right? Let's just be honest. They're being given a whole bunch of money to go to a program, right, that then wants to, leverage that in some way, right? Power, money, whatever you want to call it. So, yeah, it's going to be difficult at this point to put it back together, but it's going to take strong leaders, strong people in the locker room, and the coaches have to be able to get back to a point where they say, hey, this is how we do it. No questions asked. You're either on board or you're not.
And see, I think that's where we're going to miss it because the days of the Bill Belichick type of coaches, those guys are being all pushed out the door. It's all the nice guys.
Well, I think it was Amendola that says in the dynasty that we worked for Bill, but we played for Tom. Did you feel that way?
Yeah.
You did?
Well, I mean, in a way, yeah. I mean, come on, man. Like Bill, it was. I mean, there's just no attaboys, no nothing, and so. Part of that is the yin and yang in life, right? It's the good cop, bad cop. It's the, I'm the parent, that gets on them. You're the one that hugs them, right? And I think honestly, some of the most well-run organizations on earth kind of do function that way. Of course, it presents itself different in football, but Tommy was the one that we could rally with, even though he was very demanding, right? It's not like he didn't get on a guy like Amendola and everyone else when he felt the need, but he did it different. It came with a, hey, babe, afterwards, and like a little nuzzling of the neck or something. I don't know. It's a California thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it was that mentality a little bit for sure.
But it's like you play for the coaches. You work for the coaches, but you play for your brothers. And your teammates are your brothers, and they can understand everything that's going through. Even though, I love Jeff Davison as a coach. We love Scar as a coach. But your brothers are the ones that could relate to you, of some of the stuff. And those are your teammates that maybe coaches, it's not like you distrusted them, but you knew that their agendas were a little bit different than the guy sitting next to you and your left and your right.
Or maybe even Wiggy, like the head coach, right? Like I didn't really understand Bill completely, right? I mean, that's a complicated dude. But I wasn't being coached by Bill on an hourly, almost seemed like minute by minute basis. That was Dante. And Dante was a tough coach, man. I mean, he demanded everything from you, but you knew that he always had your back, right? Like there was no question, and I'm sure Jeff was the same way. You have a close relationship with your position coach. Your head coach is that wild card. What's he going to do? How's he going to do it? What's today going to be like after a big loss? Are we going to get massacred? I mean, like is practice going to be miserable? And I think there's a part of that that's a healthy form of it. And I don't know, man. We had something very, very special. We had unbelievable coaches, right? Dante and Ivan Fears. I mean, think about the Josh McDaniels and the Billy O'Briens and all these guys that just on the offensive side, let alone the defensive side, who sacrificed everything. Like, I mean, these guys were there all day, every day, believed in the mission and worked their tail off under a guy like Bill Belichick. Not easy, and we won. I mean, that's the recipe, right? Hard work, perseverance, and go get it every day. And they did that. We had that.
I know you want to plug something foundation-wise. What do you got coming up?
I do, but listen, Greg, I also want to say this about what happened yesterday, okay? I'm done with Daylight Savings Day, okay? Time. I'm done with it. I'm done with it. Here's my thing, okay? I'm sick of it. It's no longer a debate. Now everyone is going to be on my time, and if we all stick to this, we can make this happen. I'm not going to acknowledge the next change. The time right now will never change. So if we go on with this thing in the fall where we fall back, I'm not falling back, Greg. I'm not losing ground ever again.
So for you,
right?
it's 7:40. It's 7:43, not 8:43, is what you're saying.
No. I'm on time right now. Right now it's 8:43, but in like September, October, it'll still be 8:43.
Okay.
And so if I tell you to meet me somewhere at 8:43 and you show up an hour early, right? I don't care. That's not my fault. You're an idiot. You see what I'm saying? If we all do this, let's band together. Who's with me?
I'm with you.
I like that.
I love it.
I feel like it's going to be confusing for people. I don't.
We don't need to wait on Congress.
Right.
I mean, look, the Congress can't get anything done. The government's an absolute joke, right? I mean, we the people. That's why they say these things, right? It's us. We can do this. Just ignore the change coming up in the fall. They can't make a decision. We will, and everyone else will conform to us. I think we can do this. Okay, that's it.
Fantastic.
That's all I have.
I'm in. Okay. And your foundation plug?
And my plug is on March 21st, we have our Fool's Night Out. It's a big event. We love it. It's at the Encore Boston Harbor. We're going to be at Memoir, March 21st, MattLight72.com. Get tickets. Come out. Laugh your ass off. By the way, I'm going to be showing something on one of my favorite coaches of all time, Mr. Skarnecchia. It's something that we did during training camp. Wiggy, I think you may have even been there. It's an instructional video. It's a motivational instructional video that we filmed during camp, and Bill had us play it for the team. It went over really well, except for maybe Dante didn't appreciate it as much. But anyway, we're going to launch some funny videos, some great stuff from the past, awesome comedians, Corey Rodriguez, Lenny Clark, Tony B, you name it, Tom Cotter, and we hope to see everybody out there.
All right, Mr. Light. Thank you, and we'll talk to you again soon.
You're the best, guys.
We'll
Be
talk
well.
to you. We'll have you on at 7:45 in September. All right, so be here for that. All right,
your attitude.
one man protest on the
I like it.
daylight
Me too.
savings time.
So when you guys are all here at 6, I'm showing up at 7.
yeah, I think that's fine.
I love it.
Makes sense.